All right, let's do this. Let's now talk about my experience of actually going through this campaign. And I should give a little bit of a background on this. So I don't get a lot of free time during the week to play D&D. I have one night in the week, which is a Monday, which is my gaming night. I get time away from the children, time away from the wife. It is sacrosanct, booked in my diary, Monday nights, every Monday. And I need that for my sanity. But during this particular summer, I was able to kind of wrangle a few extra days. Basically, there was a group forming on Saturday during the day, and I very nicely asked my wife, "Can I go along to this?" And she was like, "Yeah, not every Saturday." And so I was only there for like maybe 2 out of every 3 weeks. I'd be there, but yeah, it was a nice chance just to have another campaign on the side, which I very much was thinking of as my secondary campaign throughout. The group itself was formed of, it was a brand new DM. He had never DM'd before, and he was quite shy and quite nervous. And so he was asking one of the people that I was in my main group with, he was asking for his help because he's quite an experienced hand. He said, "Can you help to kind of co-DM and just help me out a little bit if I'm struggling?" And the guy was like, "Yeah, sure, of course." So that was the idea. There was kind of this newbie DM, an old hand co-DM, and the rest of the party would be made up of newbies, complete newbies, never played D&D before. That was the idea. However, it was discovered very early that one of the newbies that they brought in was a bit of a flight risk and didn't stick around very long. And the other newbies at the table were all quite shy and weren't really... They were newbies, but they were also quite withdrawn newbies and weren't really aware of what they were capable of doing as characters, and being like, "Oh, in this moment I think I will roll an insight check on what that person just told me. Oh, I think I will look for traps here." They were very much just doing what the DM told them to do. So they got through a session 0 together, realized that something wasn't quite working there, and at this point the co-DM turned to me as someone else that he knew was, I guess, an old hand by that point. I'd been playing for about a year, I think, at that point. And so he said, "Can you come along as well and help out?" So as I already told you, I wasn't available every week, but at the same time, I didn't feel that would be a problem. Very much my idea was, straight out the gate, I was here to steady the ship as it was. I saw my role in this party as being one of helping the newbies get used to playing D&D, get them used to knowing what their characters can do, not hogging the limelight, not dominating the table, very much stepping back and just playing a supportive role at the table. That was how I kind of saw my role. And so to do this, I decided I wanted to create a character who would deliberately be standoffish with the others, reliable, but slow to trust, and not someone that rushes around looking for solutions, but at the same time kind of a protective person who would step in and defend during combat. So at the time, because I was still quite, in my mind, I was still quite new to D&D, and so I was deliberately going the rounds. I had it in my head that I wanted to play every single class in the game and every single race in the game, in the base game. There's so many races now. Every race in the base game, so that I had familiarity with their features before I then decided to DM myself. So I wanted to DM, but before I did, I wanted experience of the whole game, the different features, the different classes, all of this stuff, and I was doing very well on that journey. I'd already, if you watch this video, you'll see I'd already played as a human cleric, which was Professor Erksbane. In a one-shot, I had played as a half-orc barbarian, Brick. I won't say any more about him now, though, because kind of recycled him. Then in my main campaign at the time, I was playing Billick Brindlesnout, who was a gnomish druid. Basically, he was a chef who got all of his magic from food that he took from the land. You know, I really love this guy. Conceptually, I love this guy. Then I played as a dwarf ranger. Yes, Gorn. He was originally created for a Halloween one-shot that I went to. Then I played as a tiefling paladin. I played as a hexblood monk, which was my first evil character that I played. I played as a dragonborn blood hunter. I played as an owling wizard, Jürgen Flugelspitz, conjuration wizard who loved eating sausages. I played as a halfling sorcerer, which was like kind of a spooky undead boy. I played as a half-elf bard, who I played as this hard-boiled detective called Quevin Delorc. I wanted him to be a non-musical bard. That was my idea when I made him. I liked him as well. I played as an elf rogue, which was Bob Ross. Literally Bob Ross. He was like an arcane trickster, and all of his magic was around painting. And I was on the cusp of playing as a Genasi warlock, Thurn the Shepherd, until unfortunately the comic shop closed and I never got the chance to play her, which is a shame because she is cool. Best mini that I've ever owned right there. Which leaves us, I think I've covered all of the other classes in the game, but that leaves us with Fighter, which is a class I left for a while because specifically I wanted it for Yvette. She was a human, but she was a variant human, so different to Professor Erskbane, and that meant I got a feat Sentinel at level 1. And I was still justified in picking her, I felt, because I was still trying new things. This was my first attempt at playing a female character, and it was also my first attempt at deliberately creating a non-optimal build. So a little bit about her before I crack on. A long time ago, going back about 20 years now, I read this webcomic which was called the Shadowlark Symphony. I liked it at the time, I was reading it a lot. And within this webcomic there was a character which was called Sakura, and she was a badass. She was like this amazing fighter, really, really cool. But as you'll see from the artwork here, she had one arm, she had one eye, she was covered in scars, but she was still by far like the most capable member of like the main cast in that story. And I decided, you know what, I think she would work really, really well in D&D as well. Not as a cat person anymore, but actually as a human, and one with a French accent, no less. She talks like this. She's what can I say, huh? She's just always like this. She does not care. She does not care what is happening. You just do what you want. She will stand over here and sharpen her sword. As I say, she was deliberately made as this non-optimal build. She only has one arm, so obviously she can't carry two-handed weapons. She can't carry a shield. She has only one eye, so her perception rolls were constantly at disadvantage. She had PTSD towards magic, and so that meant that every time she saw a spell being cast, I would make her roll a wisdom save against her own spell save DC, which was quite low, and this was even by her own party. If she saw the party casting magic, she would spaz out and she would have fear towards that person. She was in jail for a long time and she got a lot of muscle atrophy, and so as a result she was -1 on strength. She was basically a dex fighter, so she used to be quite high level. A lot of that skill has now left her, resulting in just one feat, which is Sentinel, and she has a couple of Battlemaster skills left that she got as a result of her fighting style. Yes, she would later gain Battlemaster as her subclass. And so, yeah, there was this real sense of her kind of growing and rediscovering her abilities. It made sense why she started off at level 1. It made sense why she was slowly growing, building her ASI, gaining back her muscle mass, and just becoming a more competent and more rounded character as she grew through the levels. And in the end, she even slowly became more comfortable around her party. She became more comfortable around their magic, and eventually, by the end of the campaign, she was even wielding a magic dagger of her own. Oh yeah, the other thing as well, the final thing, which I think frustrated the DM because he just did not know how to deal with this. She couldn't read. Yeah, she couldn't read. How to know that your fantasy game was written by geeks? Everybody in it speaks multiple languages and everybody can read. Well, I'm sorry, game, but this is a pseudo-medieval fantasy world. She did not go to school. She grew up basically on the streets learning to fight for herself. She is not stupid at all, but she can't read. Deal with it. So anyway, those are my self-imposed restrictions. Very rough around the edges, very brusque with strangers, but I loved her and I loved playing as her. And I was also very conscious as well. I wanted to play a female character. Deliberately, I didn't want to be playing a sexy female character because that's just icky. You know, when a guy rolls up at the table with, I have some buxom woman and she's scantily clad, it's like you're just playing out your fantasies, and that's gross. Like, she is a fully 3D, well-rounded human being. You know, she dresses like a human, she talks like a human, she happens to be female. That's kind of what I was going for. So yeah, and funny thing is as well, over time, during the course of this campaign, the DM actually gave me a second character to play with as well. Because as I said, Yvette was terrified of magic, so anytime the party was being rewarded with magical items, I was like, nope, she doesn't want any part of it. And so I think that the DM kind of felt bad for me that I wasn't gaining any loot or anything of value. And so he decided to give me instead a sidekick, following the rules of sidekicks as laid out in Xanthar's guide. He gave me a Kenku who was following me around. This Kenku was actually originally like in the very first or second session, there was we were hunting down Lord Neverember who'd been kidnapped. Volo recruited the party, said, I'm looking for my friend, can you please help find him? We tracked him down, we managed to find him, and he was being held in a room with some Kenku standing guard. We decided not to kill those Kenku, and we actually, when we got the tavern, we ended up staffing the tavern with those Kenku that we rescued, and we even renamed the tavern to the Kinky Kenku. Was not my choice, I wasn't there in that session, but it was basically a Kenku strip club, which I think the rest of the party just found hilarious, the concept of it. But this particular Kenku decided that he was really keen on gold. He really wanted gold. Gold! That was all he ever said. He really wanted gold. And so he decided rather than run the tavern, he would follow Yvette around because Mistress has gold. I didn't use him every session, but if ever someone else at the table was missing, I'd bring this sidekick character out, and I'd have two characters, which was quite cool to have. And I also played it that basically Yvette was very rude to him. She basically bullied him a lot. She used him to kind of fetch and carry, and she just kind of like, so you're so useless, huh? What time is this, huh? I told you to go get the water like an hour ago, huh? You come out like this. What is this, huh? Look at the state of you, huh? And so she was just really rude to him all the time. And so over time, he was getting really like stressed, and like he like some of his feathers were starting to molt and fall out, and he's getting like little bald patches because he was like so under so much stress from his mistress, which was quite funny, even though, you know, in a vacuum, very cruel that he was being mistreated, but still very funny. Yeah, so that was Yvette. And as for the campaign itself, I mean, it went okay. As I say, we went through it very quickly. It took us about 3 or 4 months. I won't say it went well, and the main reason for that was, a combination of things. One, as I say, the DM was very new. He wasn't very experienced, and although that's not necessarily a bad thing, I think he often didn't have the kind of table presence needed to make kind of difficult decisions, and that kind of came back to bite him later, particularly because, problem number 2, the co-DM and I have to be careful here because the co-DM is a really good guy, and I've played with him in a number of campaigns now. I like playing with him. He's been at my table throughout my campaign that I played, and he is actually the DM in one of our groups as well. So he's a great guy, and he knows the campaign, he knows the game really well, and he's really fun to play with. But his playing style is, it's fair to say, quite forceful, in the sense that he likes to break things. If you give him option, you can either go A or B. He's the kind of guy that will choose option banana, right? He will deliberately go out of his way to test the limits of this sandbox that you have been put into, and see how he can kind of mess with things. He likes doing that, which normally is fine. But remember, we've got a brand new DM, and we have a table filled with newbies who aren't really equipped to respond to that. And so they're just kind of going along with the flow, like laughing, yeah, that's funny, yeah. But I think at the same time, not experiencing the adventure, but more just going along with this character's spin-off from the adventure. We were playing in a comic shop as well. I'm used to playing in a quiet room with just a few of us. We've got atmospheric music. I really get into it when I play. I don't know if you can tell. I've got a YouTube channel about it, so as you can tell, I really absorb myself in this world. I really get into my character. And I gotta say, being in a comic shop in public, a lot of chatter going on around, a lot of noise, a lot of disturbances, and just randos coming by, like they've come in to buy some Magic the Gathering cards, and they're just like looking over at you at the table when you're like role playing, and you know, you feel a little self-conscious. How can you not? And so you end up kind of subconsciously reining things back in when you were kind of in the flow. So that kind of knocks your enjoyment as well. And then finally, as I said, my availability was only maybe 2 out of every 3 sessions, and so I did miss quite a few important moments in the story. So all in all, that was where things were. Where things really went off the rails, though, unfortunately, at one point we decided to bring in... I mentioned earlier, one of the players at the table was a bit of a flight risk, and he kept ducking sessions, and so we kicked him quite quickly. Fair play to the DM. He made that judgment call and kicked him. And then we were looking for a new person to join us. And the person that we brought in was a female. The reason I'm laughing, it was the first time... Not the first time. It was that I haven't played with many women at the table in D&D, and this was the first time I was playing a female character in front of a woman. So again, talk about feeling a bit self-conscious. Like I didn't want to be like mansplaining or talking down or making people feel uncomfortable with my decisions. Is that overthinking it? I don't know. I feel, had I played some buxom, scantily clad woman, and there were a real woman at the table, I think I would have felt even worse. As it was, luckily, she was not that at all. And as it was, the player at the table was herself quite buxom and scantily clad. So there we go. So anyway, she joined us, and she was playing a bard. Now here's the thing, she had never played in a campaign before, but she had played a lot of one-shots before, and she built her character very much like a one-shot character. You know what a one-shot character is. They're kind of gimmicky, they're kind of funny, but they're not really built as a character to kind of stick around. And so she built her character a lot like a character out of EastEnders or something. Quite chavvy, and just like, well, you know, yeah, I'm just like, you know. And she had like rollers in her hair, and she attacked with like a rolling pin. I don't know, it was quite funny. I found it funny. But the co-DM really, really instantly took a disliking to this character and the player behind the character. I don't know why, but straight away from the very beginning, these two people at the table just did not get on. The bard, her name was Debs. Debs didn't like the co-DM's character, which was called Legion. He was like this undead monstrosity. Ha! Funny, I've talked about that character before. He was this undead like monster, and Debs didn't take a liking to him because he was like collecting skulls. He like had a bag and he was putting skulls into it, and he took a disliking to her because, as he saw it, she was breaking the immersion of the game, because she was bringing to the table very 21st century mentality and thinking, very much I'm just from the trailer park, my husband, he ran off going to get a pint of milk the other day, and I'm stuck with the kids at home, and that was the character. And he really disliked that. He was like, she's just a character out of EastEnders, and this is meant to be a fantasy world. I had no problem. I found it funny, and to be honest, I found that no less believable in the context of Waterdeep than a giant undead skeleton man. So, for me, I was just saying to the guy, chill. I think it's fine. Don't worry about it. Okay, she said trailer park, but just swap that out for gypsy caravan. And sure, she has a rolling pin. Just swap that out for a club. Just mentally make that swap, and you're fine, right? But no, he really disliked it, and because he was co-DM and was really good friends with the DM, he managed to get the DM to make a ruling, which basically said, he made an announcement to the whole group that basically said, nope, you've got to, we need to bring things in line with the fantasy setting of the Sword Coast. Fine. So that ruling was made, and I don't think she was particularly happy about that, but she went along with it. But then things took a further turn a couple of sessions later, and I wasn't there for this session. What I would say is, between her joining and what I'm about to tell you, there was about 3 sessions that went by. As I said, I really liked her actually as a character, because she was another woman at the table, the only other woman in the party, and so I made it that Yvette kind of was getting a bit close to her as well. She helped to do Yvette's hair at one point, because Yvette's hair was literally like if she took her hair like this and just went with a sword, because that's literally what she'd done. She did not look after herself, Yvette, because she had escaped from prison. She was a mess, psychologically, physically, she was a mess. I don't know why. I seem to play to type quite a lot there. I don't know why. I play a lot of psychological, physical messes in my characters. What do you know? I guess that's what I am. No, but so Debs came and she was like, "Oh, we should do your hair nicely." She put it in rollers and things, and it was a nice little bonding moment. So I really enjoyed our interactions. The problem started when Debs decided that rather than joining any of these other guilds who came to the table and said, "Hey, join us, join the Harpers, join the Order of the Gauntlet," she said, "Nah, I think I'm going to join the Xanthars Guild. That'll be fun." And the DM said, "Sure, you can join the Xanthars Guild." And so after that, she was kind of sneakily doing things for the Xanthars Guild behind the party's back, which was cool. I really liked it. She would sneak off in the middle of the night and do secret missions, or she'd be coming along with the party, pretending to do things that the party were doing, but every now and again, she would just sneak off. And at one point, we found this boy. We saved the life of a boy, and our intention was to send this boy back to our tavern, and he could help to keep the tavern clean and look after it, and the Kenku would look after him. And so we sent the boy back to the tavern, but secretly Deb stepped in and instead gave the boy to the Xanthars Guild. Okay, so that's the context that you need to know. I wasn't there in the next session, so I am simply going to read to you the recount that I got. This is the co-DM talking here. And he wrote to me and he said, "Today was interesting. I nearly TPK'd the party." Never a good start right there. I was like, "Whoa, what happened?" And he said, "So, we went further into the dungeon and we met people from the Thieves Guild. And Debs tried to talk them down to let us pass using a language that none of us spoke. Probably being Thievescant. I casually cast Comprehend Languages to see what she was saying and found out that she'd handed over that boy we rescued and betrayed us. Legion called her out. He doesn't take betrayal too well, and I did a 50-50 roll to see if he would turn on her. He did. She denied it and rolled a high persuasion, but Legion rolled a pretty good insight and decided to call her bluff. So he left the dungeon for 40 minutes in real life time, and he went to see if the child was still at the Kinky Kenku Tavern. When Legion found out that the child wasn't there and that Debs was lying, the DM approved of me having him come back as a hostile enemy. And again, this is the sort of thing the DM allowed it, probably because they were good friends. That is a bad call, DM, though. He's basically saying, full PvP, go for it. Debs persuaded the whole party that she was in the right, and she got them to defend her. And so Legion drank a haste potion, which he had, and attacked non-lethally. He managed to down Debs in one attack and chain her up to question about the child and maybe hand over to the guild. And then the cleric decided to try and fight and free her. The whole party used all of their spell slots, etc., trying to stop Legion, and failed. Then, suddenly, a horde of like 15 goblins swarmed into the sewer dungeon from both sides, alerted by all the noise we made. The DM said that this would be an endless swarm until they captured us. An endless swarm of goblins. That's a DM realizing that they've made a mistake and quickly trying to correct things, overcorrecting. An endless swarm? No. Anyway, the cleric and the paladin surrendered. Debs was unconscious anyway, but I still had my haste and a full turn. So I disengaged and I used my wings to fly, and I action surged and went, "Screw this, I'm out of here." So it ended with me escaping, and the rest of the guys are now trapped in cells in the dungeon somewhere, stripped of their weapons and armour. You weren't with us, of course, so you are safe. Shortly after this, it will not surprise you to hear, the person who played Debs, decided to leave the party. She cited irreconcilable differences. Basically, she said that she was feeling uncomfortable at the table and unable to play. I will refrain from commenting any further because I was not there. I will simply say that this whole situation was symptomatic of the fact that, as I say, the DM was quite new, and the co-DM, like I said, has a habit of taking the campaign by the reins and derailing it in a way that they want to. Forgetting that the whole reason why he was there and the whole reason why I was there is to bring newcomers into the game. We should be backseat playing, not derailing actively. That's the only thing I will say on this. Whether or not Debs was justified for leaving, I don't know. Like I say, I wasn't there. It's her decision though, and ultimately one that you have to respect. But her character did pop up a few times afterwards as an enemy, which was quite funny. Anytime we encountered the Xanathar's Guild, there she was. And the very next session, I was there, and it started with my character basically springing a jailbreak. I would sneak in, I broke out the two people that had been captured, and then we had to go and find Legion. So as you can probably tell, there were quite large breaks in this campaign between actually solving the mystery of Waterdeep. We were derailing things all over the place. Yeah, a session 0 with everybody at the table would have helped. Ironing out ideas like, is PvP okay for everybody? Debs wasn't there in session 0. I don't know if she was on board with the idea of PvP. I think in her mind she was just trying something fun, like aligning with the Thieves Guild. I don't know if she was necessarily on board with the way that things went. Anyway, the campaign continued, and over time we were able to get these newbies to kind of come out of their shells a little bit, and it all ended with me basically passing the baton. And I had this like heart-to-heart with the paladin at the table and was like, you're the best person here, you are our leader, you should lead us into this. And she was like, really? I'm the leader? And I was like, yes, you are. It's not this guy who keeps attacking the party and running off, and it's not me. I don't care about any of you guys. No, you are the leader here. You are the moral heart. You are the paladin. You are the one that is lawfully good. You are our leader. And I think that character really was like, wow, really emboldened by that, and then acted like this leader. And we went on. We encountered. We managed to get the real stone. We went down into the vault. We defeated the big bad. We went into the vault. There was a dragon. I've since been told that this dragon was really, really nice and kind. One of my friends that I play with at the moment was like, oh, that dragon, he's like the nicest character in D&D. And I was like, really? He was just a dragon that attacked us when we entered. Different DMs play in different ways. There we go. But we defeated this dragon, and it was quite funny, because it was obvious that the dragon was about to die. Several of the people in the party had been knocked unconscious at this point, and it came around to the Kenku's turn. His name is MVP. Came around to MVP's turn, and I decided to have a bit of fun with it, because of course the whole campaign he'd been bullied by Yvette. Yvette at this point was unconscious. She'd been knocked out in the previous round, and so I was just like, this is probably the last turn. The dragon's going to die, he's bloodied, so let's just have some fun with this. And I just said, you know what? The Kenku looks at Yvette, knocked unconscious on the floor, looks at the pile of gold that the dragon is sitting on, looks at Yvette, looks at the pile of gold, turns around, looks at the big open door right there, and he goes, gold! And he picks up a single gold piece from the floor and legs it out of there. And that was all she wrote for MVP, who left the campaign having finally achieved his objective in life. He managed to get some gold. That was quite funny. So he left the campaign. So yeah, we defeated the dragon. We managed to get all of the loot. We decided to give it away to the city, and then we went back to the Kinky Kenku Tavern and lived out the rest of our lives as landlords. So that was my experience of playing through Waterdeep Dragon Heist. As I say, it was a good time. I did have a good time. I learned a lot from that experience of how to manage new players, of how to manage the table, and so I'm glad that I did it. Would I do it again? Probably not, although I think I would quite like to DM Waterdeep Dragon Heist. What I would do though is probably bring in extra elements to flesh it out. As I've already said, I would probably only have one of the guilds come to the party and recruit them all. That avoids any issues of PvP or any issues of split loyalties or conflicting interests. One group recruits them. And I would probably have the big bad from this campaign spill over into Dungeon of the Mad Mage. Maybe they escape down into the Undermountain, and the party has to follow them, and then that creates a nice segue from one campaign to the other, rather than it being this kind of full stop and then continue. So yeah, all in all, pretty cool, and thank you for coming along on this journey with me. I do love Yvette, and I'm very glad that she is my backup character in Dungeons and the Mad Mage. I've already used her briefly, and she will continue to be my backup character. But, you know, of course, Gorn is in the way first. So yeah, there we go. I never quite sure how to end these things. Below this video, you'll see there's a whole bunch of other videos that I've linked to. You've got the playlist for Dungeon of the Mad Mage, which I recommend you go through. You've also got my thoughts on the Dragon of Ice by a Peak, which is where we first meet the character of Legion, who also appeared in Waterdeep Dragon Heist. So if you want to get more fully rounded context on everything I've said here, that's where to go. But in the meantime, have a wonderful time, and, you know, why not? Hey, like, comment, favourite, subscribe, hit the bell icon, all of that stuff. There, I did it, I said it. Feel a bit dirty now. Gotta go wash my mouth out. Blech.